Ladies and gentlemen, you've probably heard by now that Trump has set his sights on Greenland. I know what you're thinking. Surely this is satire, surely this is some elaborate performance piece designed to distract us from something else. But no, ladies and gentlemen, this appears to be genuine. Now, one must admire, in a purely anthropological sense, the audacity required to propose the acquisition of an entire territory belonging to a NATO ally with the casual insouciance of a real estate developer inspecting a strip mall. But then again, that is precisely what we ought to have expected from a man whose entire life has been a masterclass in the conflation of commercial transaction with statecraft. The notion that Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark, a fellow member of the Atlantic Alliance and a nation we claim to cherish, should simply be purchased like a plot of beachfront property is not merely absurd. It is instructive. It reveals with remarkable clarity the intellectual bankruptcy of a certain strand of American chauvinism that mistakes wealth for wisdom and real estate for strategy. One is then treated to the threat, barely veiled, barely disguised, of military action against Denmark. A small nation, yes, but one that has bled beside American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. One that has contributed to NATO, that has honored its commitments, that has done precisely what a civilized ally is supposed to do. And for this loyalty, this fidelity to the alliance, it is to be threatened with military coercion. The message, whether intended or not, is brutally clear. Thank you for your sacrifices. Now kindly stand aside while the grown-ups discuss how best to carve up your Arctic. The Danes, one might note, have responded with a mixture of bemusement and barely concealed horror. And who can blame them? They have kept faith. They have paid their NATO dues. They have sent their soldiers to distant lands at American behest. And for this, they are to be informed that their territory is up for sale and that refusal to sell might result in military consequences. It is not diplomacy. It is not even intimidation, properly understood. It is the flailing of a man so divorced from reality that he has begun to believe his own myths about himself. The truly galling aspect, and here one must speak frankly, is that there are those, even now, who will defend this nonsense. They will argue that it is merely unconventional thinking, or that it demonstrates strength, or that it is simply negotiating. But this is precisely the language by which we have learned to excuse the inexcusable. So let us call this what it is. Not a mere proposal or a negotiating tactic or an exercise in unconventional thinking. Let us call it what it manifestly is, a repudiation of the very order that has kept the peace, however imperfectly, for the past 8 decades. It is the language and logic of imperialism, dressed up in the cheap suit of real estate terminology, offered by a man who confuses his own appetites with the interests of state. The final indictment of this proposal is this. A real statesman, a genuine leader, would recognize that American interests are served by maintaining alliances, strengthening the rule of law, and ensuring that the international order remains stable and predictable. Trump, by contrast, offers only appetite, only the desire to acquire, to possess, to demonstrate dominance. This is not statesmanship. This is not even cunning diplomacy. This is thuggery adorned with the language of security. And when, not if, but when, the consequences of this approach become apparent, when NATO has fractured, when American credibility has been destroyed, when every other nation has learned the lesson that American commitments are worthless, when the entire post-war order has crumbled into a competitive struggle for territorial dominion, then perhaps we will reflect on how it came to pass that we traded away 80 years of hard-won stability and principle for the temporary gratification of one man's appetite for conquest. But by then, of course, it will be far too late.